Do we have a, let's see. Heather, we do not have a development corporation meeting?
We do not.
Okay,
And we are all set up on our live stream channel, so we're ready to go whenever you are, Rich.
thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency for June 9th, 2021. Welcome, everybody. And our first item of business is privilege of the floor, and I believe we have several comments. I know one of them that came in, from Peter Wizaker, was pretty substantial. And I think it might be better just that everybody has had a chance to read through it. But there were some other comments that maybe are readable within 3 minutes.
Rich, was that emailed to us from Mr. Whisker?
I think Ina passed it on.
I actually just sent it to you and Heather. I'm happy to email it now if that's okay.
Yes, please. If you could share it with everybody, that would be a good thing.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so Rich, did you want to read comments? Do you want me to read comments?
I'm happy to jump in. I'm just getting to my email. Let's see. Whoops. I would read the one from Thomas Knipe if we're going down in order that I have him here.
Sure.
Let's see, and I'm happy to read it, Heather, and maybe you could pick up the next one.
Okay.
Dear IDA members, thank you for your consideration of Vecino Group's request. Oh, yeah, this is on a different topic, but yep, here it is. Thank you for your consideration of Vecino Group's request to reduce the agency administrative fee to 0.5% of the value of construction of improvements for the Esteri project, which you will consider at your June 9th IDA meeting. The 50% reduction in the IDA fee will provide much needed budget relief for this complex public-private partnership project to the benefit of the city, county, DIA, and industry-supported conference center and city-supported public parking garage, in addition to the affordable housing. Thank you, and please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Tom, and that's from Tom Knipe, Deputy Director for Economic Development at the city.
Okay, the next comment I have is from Teresa Alt, 206 Eddy Street, Ithaca. I want to remind you that all the public comments to the IDA's hearing about BVSHF3 Ithaca or McKinley or 401 East State Street were opposed to granting a tax abatement. I note, however, that at about the time when comments and signups to speak were due, the IDA's website went down. We have no idea how many people wanted to comment but were deterred. You should hold a second public hearing to allow more public participation. My own objection alluded to the inadequacy of the $5,000 per total unit fee in lieu of providing affordable units. You are due to revisit that fee by July, and I urge you to do so carefully. Take into account the actual profits to be derived from the market rate housing in the project. Take into account the rising actual costs of building affordable housing, not just the cost for the Community Housing Development Fund to signal approval of a different affordable development. Tax abatements only belong where real public benefits are provided.
And I'm looking through, I didn't see other comments received, although we had several people comment at the public hearing on this project or on the State Street project. That's, let's see, Michael Wills, Teresa Halpert, Teresa Alt, and Veronica Pillar, and Barbara Regenspan. Did anybody else comment at the public hearing, Heather?
I think you've got it. And the public comments, the public hearing comments were distributed earlier this week.
Okay, so has everybody had a chance to review those, I assume? All right. I would note that this was one of the most engaged public hearings we've had since the pandemic started. So that's a good thing. I think we got a lot of interest. Okay, let's see, and anybody else here to speak to the IDA in person? Or-
No, we just had the comment from Peter Wissaker. I don't know if you wanted to read 3 minutes into the public record or just have them emailed to IDA members.
What's the wish of the group? Do you want to just look at them? We probably will be making a decision today, so if we want the substance of them considered, it might make sense just for us to take a moment, pull them up individually and read through them rather than have somebody read them out loud. But Martha, what do you think?
Yeah, that'll be really bad video out on live stream. I wouldn't hurt to read it out loud. And I would just ask Ina, whenever you get any comments, to send them to all of us. So that, we have them as soon as you do. That'd be great.
Okay. If that's the will, I'm happy to take a crack at reading it. Let's see. Dear members of the TC IDA, I'm writing once again to ask you to reject the McKinley Development / Blue Vista request for a tax abatement for the apartment complex they're proposing on East State / Martin Luther King Jr. Street. To be clear, I don't mind it being built, just not with our subsidizing it. Please bear with me. I recognize this letter is fairly long. I won't reprise my previous comments from last month's meeting about denying the request because it is being made by a $2 billion private equity fund. Parens and Ithaca Times editorial making the same point is in Appendix 1 below, end parens. Other than to say that if you need a sense of scale, $2 billion is the approximate value of all taxable property in the city of Ithaca. But I would ask that you also consider a number of other factors, including the project's limited local benefit and our ability to replace some of its tax contribution by reassessing the property on which they propose to build when you decide. Although I would prefer you reject the proposal outright, I would ask that at a minimum, you delay the vote until you have a chance to negotiate a better deal for the county, the city, and the school district. Along with my comments last week, my additional concerns are as follows. 1, not enough of the $117 million project will be spent locally. Without the cost of land, the local spending on the project will be $50.5 million. And with the land, 62 million, not 117 million. That is only somewhere between 48% and 53% of the promised investment. If you include the tax abatement, these figures only get smaller, 30% and 37% respectively. The details of my calculations can be found in Appendix 2 after my letter. Only 35% of the labor costs will be local and none of the monies for fees or interest nor for services. As the abatement application notes, the attorneys, engineers, architects, accounts, and contractors are all based outside of Tompkins County. I would argue that less than 50% local spending, let alone 30% or 37%, is not the rate one looks for in this type of project when an abatement is involved. 2, if we can't keep rents in the county, we shouldn't have to pay for the privilege of not doing so. Once this 353 apartment building is completed, almost all the rents will leave the community to repay investors and lenders and earn profits for McKinley and Blue Vista's partners. If rents in the building average $2,000 an apartment, parens, and this figure seems low, and parens, then the building would produce a little less than $8.5 million a year in revenue. Of that, we'd see $441,000 in salaries for professional workers, plus benefits, plus the cost of contracted labor, and beginning in 11 years, roughly $2 million in taxes. The remaining $6.5 million per year we would not see. In the first 10 years, we would be talking about $81 million, including the abatement. I recognize that this is the hazard of any out-of-town project, but subsidizing this process does not sit well. 3, the promise of an increase in affordable units in the county is an empty one. In the abatement application, it says that the abatement is necessary if the company is to provide competitive rents to a wide range of residents at rents below the current high end of the market. But at your last meeting, McKinley's representative said that rents would be approximately $50 a month below other downtown buildings of a similar type, which I took to mean Herald Square and City Center, neither of which is affordable to, quote, a wide range of residents, end quote. In other words, the abatement will not result in greater access to housing for a wide range of residents. Indeed, in the determination of financial need, Heather McDaniel writes that rental rates on average are consistent with downtown market rents. That doesn't sound like they are offering greater access. Instead, it will only increase the supply at the top end of the market. It is true that McKinley and Blue Vista promised to contribute $1,765,000 to the Tompkins County Community Housing Development Fund, but realistically, how many affordable units would that create? It would be much more efficient to create affordable units in this building instead. Along with these points, I would suggest that if the building does not get built, we should reassess the property at market value. According to the cost-benefit analysis at the end of the abatement application, the current assessment of the portion of the property on which the building will be sited is $1,595,463, or approximately 13.2% of the $12.1 million price that will be paid for the land. As Teresa Halpert Deschaines pointed out in the public hearing, the assessment of the property's value should match its sale price. Over the next 10 years, that would contribute an additional $4,444,458 in taxes on top of the $605,393 the project was expected to contribute. With the total in taxes generated being $5,049,851, it would only be $3.4 million less than the proposed project with the abatement, but much more than the $605,393 projected without. This would be a difference that matters. Finally, in my earlier testimony, I urged you to consider a number of alterations to the agreement to better protect labor, offer the community some return on the sale of the building, and keep more of the project funds local. These are summarized in my editorial below. If you decide that rejecting the abatement request is not the best course of action, I hope you will at least delay final approval until you negotiate an agreement that better protects our community, including its workers and its financial health. In sum, please deny the abatement request for the following reasons. A $2 billion company has no need for an abatement. The project will at most produce about half the local spending it implies in its proposal. A key promised public good, producing affordable housing for a wide range of residents, will not be delivered. Once built, it will lead to a draining of monies from the county in the form of rents that will dwarf the tax dollars by comparison. And finally, by simply assessing the property at its apparent true value, we will already make up more than half of the promised tax revenue from the project in its first decade, by which time, if this developer backs out, another will likely come along. Thank you, and thanks for your patience. Peter Whizaker, Tioga Street, Ithaca. Sorry for reading fast. Okay, that was the public comment. I will not read the appendixes, but let's keep the meeting moving. Are there any additions to the agenda, Heather or Ina? No? Heather?
Yes. I'm going to move to remove the NSF Enfield 1, 2, and 3 offsite community solar discussion. We were pending some correspondence from the town and from the applicant. Those have not been received yet, so I will move that off the agenda. And then if time permits, at the end, Rich has asked that I give a little bit of background information about the City Center project.
That'd be great. But I do understand you have some time commitments because you have a commitment at 4?
Yes,
where you
I have
to
a hard
actually-
stop at 3:30 today, so we
You have
had
to drive
moved the
there.
meeting
Okay.
up from 2:30 to 2.
So we'll try to keep things up tempo. Let's proceed to our first order of business, the Asteri project in Ithaca. And there's a letter in the agenda requesting an administrative fee reduction. Heather, do you want to lead us in on this?
Sure. So when the Asteri project application was presented with their cover letter, they did ask that the IDA consider a 0.5% fee. Our general fee is 1% of hard construction costs. They requested the 0.5%. It was not specifically approved by the IDA. So, they've come back now requesting that the IDA consider that. I do have just a quick spreadsheet that I wanted to put up to show the different fee scenarios.
Yes, please.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
There we go. So here's the Asteri project. We've split it into 3 separate areas of the project: the conference center, the garage, the residential. Total hard costs for the project for each one, what the fee would be at 1%, and then what the fee would be at a 0.5%. The conference center ultimate entity is a not-for-profit organization. The garage will be managed by the city of Ithaca, a tax-exempt organization. And then the residential is being developed, will be owned by an entity affiliated with the applicant that is a for-profit entity. And I just wanted to point out that in the past, what the IDA has done in terms of reducing the fee to 0.5% for affordable housing projects where the developer is a not-for-profit developer. So for example, an INHS project, the IDA has done that in the past. And then also solar projects generally get that 0.5% fee. So that's information there for your consideration. And we do have the project applicant, Rick Manzardo, with us here today.
Yeah. Martha, I see your hand up, but let's give Mr. Manzardo a chance to address us if he wishes to do so.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and thank you for time again today. I'll keep it quick. I know Heather's got a deadline. So first, the good news. We sold the non-residential bonds last week. Today, we got HFA sign off. So we're going to start construction on this thing the very first part of July. So that is good. To back up a little bit, over the last summer, we presented this project HFA. They said, you know what, we cannot support this with 1% fee. And Lenny Skrull with the agency was very upfront in that. He said, tell me who to talk to. I'll call the IDA. I'll have a meeting with the board. I'll talk with the mayor, you name it. So, and this was our error. We had 0.5% in the application. We thought it would be in the resolution. It was not. So we did not check on that. And as far as the for-profit versus nonprofit, very true. We are a for-profit company. This adjustment will not impact us at all. This is not more money towards our bottom line. It'll just be us going back to the state agency saying, you know what, the fee is 1%, and kind of see where it falls. So that's something we don't want to do. Obviously, this is all for a public benefit. No benefit to the development or to developers. It just, like I said, it's going to help the conference center, the garage, and the residential kind of deliver what was promised.
Okay, thank you. Martha.
Thanks very much. Good news about the bonds and construction. In the letter that we have, do I understand correctly that the paragraph at the bottom that's in bold, is that the language from the Hancock Street resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was 0.5% fee for housing, and that was for affordable housing. I know there's a affordable project as well. But you're asking for this for all 3 pieces. Is that right, Heather? Is that the?
Yes.
Okay. It's a one-time fee, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the delta was about 300,000 if I didn't write down the numbers, but.
Yes, 740,000 versus 370,000.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay.
right, John?
I guess, so I have a couple of questions. What did we do on the last Vecino project, the Art House project that we funded? That one paid the 1% fee?
Yes.
It was a full one. I'm sorry to cut you off. It was a full 1%. That one was, they're called term sheet limits. That was under term sheet limits. We go back to state and get that allowance. This one's over term sheet. So this is, I mean, this project honestly is stretched as thin as we can get it. And it's not going to be a good look for us to go back to the state and ask for more money for housing there.
And can you just clarify a little bit? I mean, I guess I'm perhaps not entirely aware of how your funding mechanism works, how it is that, basically this comes out of somebody else's pocket. The state would be paying this fee essentially?
Well, it's essentially we go back to the state and say, hey, you know what, our IDA fee, we underwrote it, we'll call it about 200,000. It's actually about 400,000. They approved this and this was our fault. I should have had Lenny call and talk with the board, Lenny from the state, to understand basically the fee. But the state's saying, you know what, we want everyone to kind of give their share, essentially all parties to chip in on this. And that was them looking at the IDA saying, you know what, typically the fee is 1% for like IHS, for instance. They've waived that to half or lowered that to half before. So they expect the same out of this.
Okay, Todd, you're up.
Rich, I'm just trying to understand this. So with that, the 1% usually is when it's a residential benefit to the community, like low-income housing. Is that how I'm reading this? And then the rest would be subject to that would be the 0.5%?
No, this is the fee that comes to the IDA.
Yep. But the reason why the Arthur project was 1%. What was the reason behind that again? That was because it was because it was all residential housing, or?
The standard IDA fee is 1%.
Okay. So I'm
I heard
curious.
it, Todd, on the Art House project, the 1% worked from a financing standpoint. And what Mr. Manzardo seems to be saying is that it doesn't work here, that they have to go back to the New York State and say, we need some more money to pay this fee. And they'd like to avoid doing that.
I'm just wondering why you wouldn't do it on just the residential portion of it and not all three sections.
I think that's an option for us. Okay. Laura.
Thanks, Rich. I had a similar question to what Todd just mentioned. Would it be possible to reduce to the 0.5% on just the residential portion? I mean, in general, I would favor the reduction to 0.5%. This project, the Vecino Green Street Garage project, though, has been so complex and has taken so much time and gone through so many iterations and need for changes that I'd like to do everything possible to see this moving forward. My question is, are we looking at setting a precedent by changing this particular project fee, whether it's for all three components or for one of the three components?
I think we always have that concern. Martha, you're up again.
Yeah, I'm looking at packet page 34, where we have the, what I assume is the governance committee was looking at the fees, or look at the UTEP policy. And it appears that by all the red text, am I right, Heather, this is what is actually proposed for administrative fees, is that not-for-profit project, the fee will be equal to 0.5% of the total value of expenses that are positively impacted by IDA incentives, et cetera. So since the conference center is nonprofit, the city is, clearly a nonprofit or whatever. And then the housing is, is a special case. It seems to me each of them fits under what's proposed here to be our policy, which, in other words, if we did the policy adoption first in this meeting, it might not be at all questionable that all three parts would be eligible for 0.5%.
Okay,
Is that the
I-
intention here, Heather?
The housing is not a not-for-profit entity. I don't think
Okay.
it would fall under the policy as a 0.5% for a not-for-profit.
Okay.
okay,
But we have precedent that other housing,
yeah,
okay. But anyway, so
yeah,
the not-for-profit intention is that it go to 0.5%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
okay, Todd?
I'm sorry, I forgot to take my hand down, Rich. Sorry.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, this project is certainly special and in many ways, I think that in general, I could see supporting this for this project, but I do want to be really clear, if we do so, that it is just for this project and that this is not something that we want to actually, like, I think that we should stick to our policy in general.
Okay. If I could jump in with, oh, Jeff, you go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Heather, have we had any precedent for granting 0.5% for a for-profit organization in the past?
No, we have not.
I would jump in with a comment here. I note the letter I wrote that I read earlier from Tom Knipe was directed to this issue. And it does appear the city's position is they would very much like us to adopt the 0.5% fee to help make this financially feasible. Given the complexity of this project in terms of the different community benefits we're trying to get built here at the same time, I've debated this back and forth in my head, but I think I would support the 0.5% reduction with a clear statement that we're not setting a precedent here for other not-for-profit projects. On the other hand, if the for-profit venture is providing affordable housing to the community, I don't know that I care that much if they're a for-profit or not-for-profit. We might want to take that issue back to our governance committee and think further on that. But at any rate, I'm inclined to support. Todd?
Yeah, I just want to say, I just remember when this project went in front of the City Common Council and when Alderwoman Cynthia Brock asked them to, because of all the people they were supporting local labor, asked if they would, and she asked the words if they would commit to prevailing wage and 100%, and they said yes. And then now it's come back through and now it's 30%. And now they're asking for a decrease in the 1% fee that was outlined to them before. I think, so we're not setting precedents. I would like to see us stay with that 1%.
All right, Mr. Manzardo, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so the conference center and the parking garage were always a prevailing wage, and they still are. The residential was never anticipated as prevailing wage.
That's not what was said at the meeting, though, Rick, when it
I
happened.
disagree.
Okay. Okay.
It's 12:15
Martha?
that night when the meeting ended. Remember?
Okay. Martha?
I'm going to support this. I think we should revisit the fee schedule for affordable housing projects. We have enough trouble getting affordable housing built in this community. And then the other two parts are, the city and a nonprofit. And frankly, much of the whole financing is built on room tax revenue, which if there was ever a bad year to be building something on room tax revenue, this is it. So I would support all three, the 0.5% for all three, and ask that we reconsider that as the policy for affordable housing.
Okay. Todd, did you have something?
Do you need a
further?
motion? Do you need a motion?
Yeah, in just a moment. I want to make sure everybody's had a chance to talk. Okay. Yes, I need a motion. So moved from Martha. Do I get a second there?
Second.
Not seconds. Okay. Any further discussion on the proposal to reduce the fee to 0.5% on all three aspects of the project? Does anybody want to try to make an amendment to bring it to just part of it? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the roll. In order I see people on the screen. Todd,
No.
Martha,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, so that passes. Thank you, Mr. Manzardo, for coming in and talking with us. Good luck with your project. Let's get it built.
Will do. Thank you
Exciting.
everyone for your support. I truly mean that. So we'll be
Yeah.
there soon, swinging hammers.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
take care, everyone.
All right, next item up is the BVSHF3 Ithaca LLC, and that's the 401 East State Street. Martha, do you want to introduce this?
Me?
Or I'm sorry, Heather. Heather.
I could introduce this. You have in your packet the determination of financial need memo and authorizing resolution that's put forth for a vote today, as well as the public hearing minutes were distributed. The public hearing was held on June 3rd. This project meets the policy requirements of the community investment, the CTAP, the Community Incentive Investment Tax Abatement Program. They have determined, there has been a determination of financial need as is outlined in that CTAP policy. And then they've also requested the enhanced energy incentive, which they will meet as well. So this project has gone through all the formal requirements. They meet the policy requirements of the IDA. The environmental review has been done. A negative declaration has been issued by the city of Ithaca. And so, you have before you today the authorizing resolution for consideration for this project.
Okay. Why don't we put it on the floor, the resolution? Can I get somebody to move it? Martha moves? No? Okay. Can I get a second?
I think we might want to discuss it first, Rich.
No, I'll open up discussion in just a moment. I want to get it on the floor. If I could get a second. Thank you, Laura. Okay. All right. Yes, now it's open for discussion, and I see we have a representative from the company here. Would you like to say anything to the IDA?
Well, thank you guys for hearing us and Heather for all your work to get us to this point. We're very committed to Ithaca and have a great project here that fills a number of kind of benefits both to the public, to the supply of housing in downtown, and are anxious to get started as well. I mean, we have a targeted construction start date in August, assuming we get through a few additional entitlements in today's meeting. But we're very very thankful for your effort and consideration of us.
Okay. I'd like to go to Jeff. Jeff, you have a statement you want to make?
I just will abstain from discussion on the 401 State Street project due to a conflict of interest.
Okay. Martha.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about Heather's memo on determination of need. I appreciate, Heather, that the level, the ROI level, I understand that currently ROI per year is, our policy is 20%. And the revised policy we'll consider later resets that number to 10% a year. I think that's long overdue. So I appreciate that. What I understand is you've got the little table here with 5 years out. All those 5 years are well under 10%. That's what that means, right? Return equity invested, and that's the, okay. So I appreciate that. However, historic, you've got annual interest in based on actual expenses, 3% annual increase in historically 2% has been generous for inflation. I know we might be entering a bizarre inflationary period. So I won't question that as much, but a vacancy rate of 5%. If we saw a vacancy rate of 5%, I can't remember when that was. We have not had even 1% or 2% in the city of Ithaca. So, excuse me.
Yes, and generally a bank is going to require an analysis with at least a 5% vacancy rate. And so, every project I've seen downtown pretty much has that built in there. There was one project that had a 10% vacancy rate built in, and I adjusted the analysis to down a little bit because I thought that was even too high.
So the question is, would the need calculation still be met if you use 2% instead of 5%?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. All right. I seriously, I don't even want us to be looking at a 5%. Whatever the banks say, this community hasn't had a 2% vacancy rate in years. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any hands up. Oh, Laura, there you go.
Thanks, Rich. I believe I asked a few of these questions in our May meeting, and these questions came up for me again during the public hearing and in response to some of the comments we've received. I did want to ask Mr. Githens about the employment plan. If we look at the application that was submitted, it looks like the projected new permanent FTE jobs are identified as 10 in year one, and I don't see any jobs projection beyond year one, and I wonder if you can clarify that. And then I have a question too about prevailing wage.
Certainly. So the 10 new jobs are 10 property employees that would remain employed, throughout the life of this property. So that's 10 ongoing. It's not just 10 in year one. Would we grow the employee base beyond 10 after year one? It's always possible, but right now we think that's the staffing level that we would expect for a project of this size. The other is all the services that we will be contracting with local providers ongoing, and it's not reflected in here, but everything from ongoing maintenance beyond our own maintenance personnel. There's ongoing security and some after-hour conditions. There is trash pickup. There's a whole host of things that we'll be relying on others who are service providers in the city of Ithaca. Does that create new jobs? It may not, but it certainly increases potential business for those existing service firms ongoing and throughout the life of this project. This does not then also capture the construction, even though it's a finite window. There will be upwards of 150 to 200 construction workers employed on this job for a period of 2 years. That's not permanent, but it does provide very good employment for construction labor and personnel during the construction phase.
And if I could please just follow up on the application, you estimate the number of construction jobs at 100, but now you're indicating 100.
I think 100 is a steady state number.
Can you comment on how many of those? Sorry?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think 100 is an average that will flex. The construction process is a bell curve. It will ramp up, peak, and then ramp down. So, there could be upwards of 150 to 200 at its peak. But I'd say on average across the 2-year period, 100 is probably the right average.
Okay, but if you're looking at a peak of perhaps 200 jobs, that makes even more significant my question about 2 questions. Paying a prevailing wage, you've indicated no, and use of local labor, you've indicated 35%. Mm-hmm. Is it possible to adjust either of those figures?
It's always possible to increase the percent of local labor. It's somewhat unknown until we have selected all of our subcontractors for the project. We have, the goal of 35%. We may do better than that. Ultimately, we've identified the general contractor who is Purcell Construction. They built a number of projects in Ithaca. They have a number of subs that are certainly regional. Not all of them are local to Tompkins County. And, it comes down to really the capacity of those subcontractors and both in Tompkins County and outside of Tompkins County and capabilities to do, the skilled labor that we have needs for. So we certainly will try to do better. We always do, but it's hard to forecast beyond that at this stage.
And I think just a point of information, when we're talking about local labor, we're talking about Tompkins and the contiguous counties.
If it is contiguous counties, then I'd say the likelihood is much stronger that we could exceed that. I just don't have, until the subcontractor base is identified, it's hard for us to commit to something greater than that at this stage.
And if I may just ask one last follow-up, and that has to do with prevailing wage. I hear what you're saying about subcontractors, and not all subcontractors are yet identified, but can you not make it a requirement, build it into in some way your expectation of subcontractors to be paying prevailing wage?
I can't commit to that at this stage, and the challenges are, and I'm sure you read what's going on in the construction industry right now. We have absorbed roughly 20% in construction cost increases in the project since we had originally underwrote it, largely due to material cost increases in metal, petroleum products, wiring, appliances, and we're trying to have a project that we can finance and underwrite. This is why we're in front of you. But if we were to commit to a greater wage profile, we would challenge this to a degree that it may not be financeable under any scenario, even with the abatement. So,
or it may require greater investment on the part of the developer.
Well, there is certainly that potential. As you get to greater investment, you have greater cost and less NOI as a percent of cost. And then you have a challenge of both meeting your investment return objectives and more importantly, your lender return objectives. You have to maintain a certain level of debt service coverage to get construction financing for a project of this type. So it's very close to the threshold right now. This abatement that we're requesting helps to make it, financeable. If we add much more burden to it, it becomes probably unachievable for us.
Okay.
Thank
Todd?
you.
Todd, go ahead.
I want to thank you, Laura, for some of those great questions there. I just know, please don't take it the wrong way when you talked about being committed to Ithaca. But like in the application, like Laura pointed out, you said you weren't going to commit to local labor. When we say local labor, we're just talking about people that live here, reside here, pay taxes here. We're talking about giving abatements. It should really be people that are putting into the local government, not people from outside our county and outside the contiguous counties around us. I really wish you would rethink that and look at that. Anything we do with these tax abatements, I think should directly affect the people that live here.
We will certainly do our best, and I'm not saying that we won't do our best to achieve local labor to the highest percent possible. It comes down to the qualification in the trades that we need for this project and their availability in the local market. And that's where, without our complete subcontractor lineup, I can't give much more clarity today on that being, the availability of those resources and employees and skilled laborers here locally until we get the subcontractor selections done. And again, understanding their capacity to take on a project. When you select a subcontractor base, there's a number of factors that go into it. Again, you try to be as mindful and respectful to the local. I mean, there's true benefits in having local subcontractor bases for travel, for other reasons. But then you've got to weigh that against their availability, their capacity, the quality of their work, and just appropriateness for the project. And I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just giving you the considerations that we make as we're choosing, the subcontractors for each of the trades.
Okay.
I'm saying a lot of those people on those trades wouldn't be able to afford these apartments. And from the letters we received from everybody, all the comments, it's sounds like everybody was feeling the same way there, all the people making the public comments.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Todd. Heather, did you have a comment there?
I just wanted to add that, what Mr. Githens is saying about local construction labor is not new information. It is all information that we've heard for several years. We've grappled with this over the last several months at the IDA's Construction Labor Committee. I will just add too that the Purcell Construction was the contractor on the City Center project, and their local construction numbers that they hit were over 50% on that project. So they have a fairly high track record based on the other projects we've seen downtown. And also, our existing construction labor policy requires all applicants to show proof that they have solicited bids from local contractors. And so, that's a given that is going to happen. And, it may be the case that there may or may not be capacity with some of those local subcontractors.
Okay. Let's see. I have Martha and then Mike.
Wasn't Mike? Go ahead, because I've already.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Sure, I wanted to say, so I'm going to vote against this, and I'm going to explain why. So I want to thank Peter Weisacher actually for writing in, because he asked in his letter a lot of questions that I have, and I've got to imagine if I have them and if he has them, then a lot of people probably have those questions. And I liked his letter a lot because it goes point by point, like here are the issues that I've got with this, and I couldn't fault any of the things he said in that letter. I was like, yeah, everything he's saying, that makes sense to me. So I'm not saying I'm forever a no on this, but for right now, I'm a no. Usually when projects come in, I can see a public benefit, and I get it. More housing is a public benefit. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that about kind of anything, but like even the waterfront property, we got a big public benefit out of that. And other is affordable housing. And I understand that money is getting paid into the community fund, but still, I mean, who's going to build this affordable housing with the community fund? We're paying other people to build it. It just seems like if you're going to build affordable housing, this is the spot to that's not all that's going to go here, but it seems like if you're building in the city center and this is what you're doing, then I find that to be an odd buyout kind of thing. And I understand that's the policy right now, so I'm not faulting the developer for that. I mean, you're playing by the rules, but I don't see the broader benefit, to be honest with you. And like I said, if I had to fall back on something that was more substantive of you saying, well, Sigler, what is your objection? I would just fall to Peter's letter, frankly. And listen, I know Peter's not watching right now, and I know the press isn't watching, although hopefully they'll report it later. And if they say, why did Sigler vote against it? They can say that Peter, his letter is why. And so people that watch at home and say, they never listen to us. I'm going to go, no, I actually did listen to this. So anyway, that's why I'm not a no forever, but I'm a no right now. So thanks.
All right. And let's see, Martha, Todd, did you want to speak again? Did you have your hand up or you? Okay, Martha. And then I'll take a turn.
I have mixed feelings, but I'm leaning to yes. And let me talk about a couple of the things you said, Mike. It took us a long time to develop the housing policy. And we're trying to figure, I mean, what our preference really was, if you go back, our preference really was that developers would include mixed income in their projects. But when you did the math, and it's math, we would have ended up with like bazillions of dollars, that's a technical term, bazillions of dollars more public subsidy to gain a few marginally more, affordable units. It would have cost public dollars far more to have developers include affordable units within their projects. And there was not even any guarantee that those units would stay affordable. In contrast, when we have something donated to the housing fund, there are lots and lots of restrictions on those projects, so that those projects built with those dollars, first of all, leverage like $95 to $1 at the housing fund, because mostly, we pay $100,000 and that brings in a $10 million tax credit program. And those are 49-year, guaranteed to be affordable for 49 years. There's no way a dollar for dollar, like that the project should build its own affordable housing, could ever achieve anything like that benefit. So, and we have seen, and we just voted on Asteri, they're going to be affordable, subsidized housing up 2 blocks away from this project. When you look at all the development that we've supported in the city, in the main city, we do have a mix of income, and that's, I think, because of our policy. I would say that the idea that the property should now be assessed for the sale price, that's a comment made by somebody who doesn't know how assessment works. We are required to assess the value of the property as it is. The assessor cannot say, well, I think someday somebody might put a palace on that property, so I'm going to assess a theoretical palace. No. Now, if this project doesn't go ahead, like the next value might be affected. But this is, Jay Franklin has to look at a parking lot. What's the value of a parking lot? So that's an actually uninformed comment by Peter. So I have, on the prevailing wage issue, if anybody's looked at all the help wanted signs out there, I'm pretty sure these developers are going to have to pay well in order to find anybody to do the work. Right now, we see a labor shortage pretty much across the board. So I think whatever their commitment is, I'm pretty sure they're going to have to pay well just to get the people to do the work. I do really, really strongly encourage them to take a serious look at soliciting bids from local subcontractors. The local labor committee has heard some wrinkles about developers not really trying hard, in a sense, to get those local subs. I really, Mr. Githens, really urge you to really solicit the local subs, have Purcell work hard and not just send off a letter and never follow it up. So that would make a big difference, and your actual performance at the end of the project will be watched. People will notice, and it will make a big difference in how people accept your project going forward. Finally, one other thing, we have seen, the Tompkins County Planning Department does a housing snapshot every year, and we have seen rents stabilize over, forget the COVID year, we don't know what that's going to do, but in the previous couple of snapshots, we have seen the overall price of rentals stabilize, and directly related to the increased supply of apartments. Housing ownership is a different story, but we have absolutely seen a cause and effect where, because we have been building a lot more units, the basic apartment rentals have not risen as they had previously, in previous 5 years. Increasing supply absolutely does help to moderate income, the rents. So I think, this is a very ambitious project. I think, Heather, this is the biggest thing physically the biggest thing we've ever looked at. Is that right? So probably not as complex as the Asteri project, but it's still a pretty complex one. I have to say, ain't nothing perfect. I wish the public understood this whole system better. I think it's our job to help explain it, but I'm going to support this. Thanks for listening.
You're on mute, Rich. There you go.
Or I was. Sorry, I'd like to take a turn. Heather, did you have something, or did you have your hand
I
raised?
can go after you, but I did have a couple of things I wanted to add.
Yeah, let me jump in. I think this has been a good discussion, and including all the people that came to the public hearing virtually and the people who wrote for our meeting today. I did have one question for Mr. Githens. In looking at the soft costs, Mr. Whitaker had mentioned that it seems like all your soft costs are being paid to out of town. I assume you did the Syracuse project previously that got you into upstate New York, and you're effectively using that team again. I'm trending towards support of this project, but I just wanted to say that does raise a concern for me that it might be harder to connect to the local labor market if you're using all out of town, engineering, architect, all the support services for your project. I'm not sure what you can do about it at this point, but I note that.
Rich, would you like for me to respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I can give you, and I'm just pulling up our list here. A lot of it is local. Our civil engineer, while not local to Ithaca, is based in Syracuse, and we use them on our Syracuse project. CHA, our structural engineer, Beardsley, is also local, at least to the region, and they're a big part of our soft cost calculation. Surveyor is local. We have got a material and inspections, which will be a local consultant. Looking through, all of the, landscape architect is at least local to the region. And then a lot of the soft costs are, not a portion of the soft cost are furniture, equipment that could be sourced from wherever it's available and through either local distributors or providers. And so those are yet really to be identified as a source. We have got a number of local studies that were conducted in the soft cost bucket. And you have, almost $4 million in permits and fees, which is all going locally. And then we have local kind of rental for our temporary leasing functions in space. And then, the rest of the soft cost really amounts to insurance and, and travel and miscellaneous expenses. So if I was to break it down, and I don't have an exact percentage for you here, but on the fly, a lot of the soft cost is coming from local or regional resources.
Okay. Well, I would echo everybody on this meeting who has said, please think local. My other comments are certainly there is city support for this project. The city of Ithaca would like to see this happen, and I think that should have a bearing on our thinking on it as well. I note the payment into the community housing fund and the impact that would have on affordable housing opportunities. And in the broader picture, I think we deserve some credit. If you look back, say, 5 years ago, and the state of affordable housing in our community and where we are now, that we have been able to see projects actually getting built that have affordable housing in them. And we've seen a tremendous increase in housing. And as Martha has said, that does have a spill across effect on rents in general and the availability of housing, but particularly workforce and affordable housing. We've seen some actual change in our community, and I think we've had something to do with that. And this project would add to that momentum. We would see another project built in our community with the highest standards for energy efficiency. And again, this is a critical goal for us, or should be, and this would help us get there. The project, I think, has an innovative plan for parking, not only for the Gateway Center generally, but also in support of our downtown core. We will see a significant increase to the tax base. And as the people objecting at the public hearing indicate, yeah, there is a tax abatement, but over the long term, you see it come back and you would see a substantial improvement in tax revenues that will benefit us into the future. And I also noted that right at this moment where we're trying to come out of this pandemic roaring, I hope, having this kind of project get shovels in the ground really will make a difference. And I note that some of the other projects that we thought would be going forward by now have really struggled with getting their financing working in the face of changing risk profiles that the banks have started to use. We want construction projects now, and this would help us get there. So I'll stop talking at that point, but I'm going to vote yes. Mike.
I just wanted to, listen, I get why certain people are voting yes and all that. So I just wanted to point one thing out, though, that it is interesting who does come to our meetings and speaks their mind. Like, I mean, I was talking about Peter earlier, and I don't know anything. I've never met the man. I don't know him at all. But I looked him up on LinkedIn, and it's, you know, he's got his master's from the University of Massachusetts, his bachelor from the University of Massachusetts. He's got his doctorate from the Cornell University. And it's listed here as city and regional planning, economic development, and economic geography. So I just don't want people to think that, oh, people fly in and they just say something. It's like, we live in a community where you have some really smart people that come in and talk to us. So generally, I like to listen to them. So thanks.
Very good point, Mike. We're really fortunate, frankly, in our community with the breadth of the opinions that are offered and the intelligence behind them. Absolutely. And there's room here to disagree. Okay. Anybody else? Heather, yes, I forgot you there. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I would just like to add a couple of things that, you know, we do prepare based on the state's requirement, a benefit analysis. And generally, when you look at economic impacts, you look at impacts over time. And some of the things that we're seeing here in terms of benefit on this project, and I won't say there aren't immediate benefits during construction because there are, but the longer term impacts. So a $1,765,000 payment upon closing later this year to the Community Housing Development Fund. On average, over the past 10 years, that fund has provided $7,100 in subsidy that has leveraged other state and federal funding per unit. So per unit, we have the potential to develop 248 new affordable housing units rather than requiring 20% on site. So the payment actually gets you more affordable housing units. If there were no project on this site, you could see $605,000 in new property taxes estimated over the next 10 years. If this project happens, our estimate is a payment, even with the IDA assistance, which phases in the new property taxes over 10 years, we're looking at a payment of over $8 million in new property taxes on top of the $605,000. That's property taxes only to the city, the county, and the school district. Whatever the assessor's office values this project at, and that will include the land price, that will be the value and the assessment of this project. They will pay full taxes. for all special district taxes, water, sewer, fire, business improvement district, based on that full value for those full 10 years. So that's additional revenue into the community. And, I appreciate the comments of, smart and intelligent people. I consider myself one of those. While I don't have a PhD, I do have a master's in urban planning and 18 years experience, the first 6 of those in the affordable housing realm. I've got here from our proprietary software that many economic developers all over the country use, an economic impact analysis on a $117 million new multifamily housing construction project in Tompkins County, New York. The direct, indirect, and induced impacts, that's economic impact analysis. It's not based on the construction or what is bought locally. It is based on, if you invest this much money in this community, you have 353 new apartment units downtown, people living downtown. They're going to spend money downtown. They're going to work in our county. A percentage of them will. This is economic impact. So if this project happens, this is what we're seeing. Not, $20 million and, buying local furniture during construction. So I just wanted to share that with you there.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, Martha and then Todd. But let's wrap it up and let's get to a vote.
Okay, I just want to say 1.7 million new money into the housing fund. That's a game changer. And that might allow the housing fund to even consider, buying land for future housing projects. That's a whole different kind of animal than the fund has ever had. And this is the kind of decision that lasts 50, 75 years. How long is that building going to be there? How long are people going to be walking to where they want to go instead of getting in a car? This is what sustainability looks like. This is what the future has to look like if we're ever going to make any kind of dent in our greenhouse gas emissions and the disaster of climate change. You got a 353 units without gas. This is where people are going to walk. This is something we really have to do.
All right, Todd.
I don't want to beat a dead horse on this, but Tompkins County is booming. Tompkins County has so much. We have a huge need here for affordable housing, for any kind of housing. We're so fortunate and blessed that we have Cornell University, Ithaca College here, Borg Warner. We got some, really big employers, here that mean a lot to this community. The needs here, the developers are going to come here, they're going to build here. You get that guarantee. You got that guarantee at Cornell University. You got the guarantee of Ithaca College. Why not just make sure we're supporting our local people? If we're giving tax abatements, we support our local people. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? A last word? Okay. Are we ready to vote? I will call the roll in order of the resolution. Martha.
Yes.
Jeff, you abstain. Mike.
No.
Todd.
No.
John.
Yes.
Laura. Laura?
This one is a real struggle. It wasn't that I was muted. This one is a real struggle for me. I will reluctantly vote yes, but I have real reservations and would want to urge the greatest way possible for the developer to think really about using local labor. And I have a question when Mr. Githens is referring to the local region. I don't know what he means by that. So I am a reluctant yes.
Okay, but a yes. All right. And the chair.
Sorry to qualify it.
That's all right. It's sometimes hard to make the decision, but the chair votes yes. So I believe that passes. And I think there was a clear message here to the developer that we we'll certainly be observing how the project goes forward and want to see local. Martha,
Yes, sorry, I meant to say this before. I hope we can get a commitment that these units will not be used for short-term rentals. I'm going to put the city center has committed to that. I'm going to propose that we actually include that in our housing policy going forward, but we haven't done it yet. I would like to ask Mr. Givens what you think about that. It's,
okay. Well, not to put you on the spot, but let's put you on the spot there.
It's a fair question, and I did see mention of that as I was reading some other meeting minutes. We have no plans to do short-term rentals in this project. What we would and what we do in most of our properties is we're looking for a 12-month lease that is a good runway to have confidence you've got a paying renter, and the short-term occupancy in our properties has not been very active. The only short term that we have done is departing from the 12-month to some special needs where there may be a 6-month lease or a sublease scenario for some residents. But I don't have any plans to rent this on a short-term kind of Airbnb basis. And it's not our business model. So that's not our plan. What you want to do with that, I think is up to you, but we have no visions of that.
well, I guess it comes down to if a resident, if residents complain that, Johnny down the hall seems to be renting out his apartment every other weekend, is that something that is going to be allowed in the lease?
Yeah, we wouldn't allow subletting without our approval.
Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you very much. And let's see, we only have 15 minutes before our hard stop, but I would like to get through some more business. Particularly, we have several minutes, and I would ask for a motion to approve minutes in a group here. These are the minutes of February 10th, 2021, March 18th, 2021. That was a special board meeting, another special board meeting on April 29th, 2021, and May 12th, 2021. Could I get a motion on those? Martha moves. Laura seconds. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All right. I will call the roll. Martha?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you, everybody. Heather, where would you like to go at this point? I see we have some policies.
I have the Cuba Vista Lansing Housing Project.
Oh, okay. That's right. We were adding that. Yeah, why don't you introduce that?
So we do have the Lansing Town Center Incentive Zone policy that was adopted in 2011. In the hopes that the town would be able to incentivize more housing and mixed-use development in their town center area. We have seen very little. There was high hopes that there would be water and sewer, which has not happened in Lansing. And so, they've still really struggled to rebuild tax base as they anticipated the Cuba operating power plant closing down. This project would really be the first we've seen other than Salt Point Brewing. They did submit a pre-application to the town. I have included it in the package here, and the town, also included a resolution, approving it, essentially sending it on to the IDA. Before I have the applicant go forward with the full application, there were a couple of things that I wanted to clarify with this group. The policy in the town of Lansing was put in place long before the affordable housing policy. This project is a 16-unit project, moderate income. It's certainly not the rents that you would see in downtown Ithaca. There are four unit buildings one of the units on the end in each building is only 1 story because it is ADA compliant. The policy says that it requires a 2-story building. The town of Lansing was fine with this. I just want to make sure the IDA is fine with that issue. And then it's a 16-unit project. It becomes financially infeasible if they had to pay the affordable housing fee. It would equate to $80,000. And the estimated property or tax savings on this project, if it were to receive the standard 7-year abatement offered through the Lansing Town Center Incentive Zone, would only be about $200,000. So the applicant wanted some clarification on that, whether they were going to be, whether the IDA would consider waiving that affordable housing fee for a small project to support the Lansing Town Center in its quest for development.
Okay. Let's see, I'm sure we'll have, Laura, go ahead.
Thank you, Heather. This project looks great. I'm certainly willing to support this. My one question is, in the application, it says providing medium income rental properties. And I don't know what definition of medium income is being applied.
There's probably no standard definition of median income. What the local developer has said to me is, oh, you know, they're about moderate. What I can rent my other properties for is, you know, a very small range from, I don't know, he said 600 to 1,200. He's not an affordable housing developer. He does not income qualify his residents, but his buildings are not built to Taj Mahal standards, is sort of what he said to me. So, you know, they're moderately sized units, they're moderately priced. The rental rates, I'm told, in Lansing are much lower than they would be in the city of Ithaca.
So does this require a public hearing, or are we voting on this?
It would require a full application, a full public hearing, and I would get more information as to the exact, you know, range of rental rates that he would be looking at.
So what we're being asked today is to approve this forward to a public hearing.
No, not at all. You're just being asked, would you be willing to entertain this and waive the affordable housing fee? He's not going to go through all the rigmarole of applying and waiting to start his construction project if he knows the IDA will not support it.
I'm fully supportive.
We do not have a full application yet. So you will have at one meeting a full application, you will send it on to a public hearing, and then you could consider it at another meeting.
Okay, I'm a yes.
Okay. Heather, one clarification, the town board is supportive of this?
Yes.
Okay. Martha, you're up.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. It sort of sounds like they would build it without the abatements. Do you?
The costs are starting to be prohibitive for him. He's been trying to make it work for a couple of years.
Okay. I'm a little confused about the construction. Is it that 3 of the units are 2-story and then the 4th unit needs building is a 1-story? Is that right?
There's four units in one building, and one of the units, the end unit, would be 1-story, and the other 3 would be 2-story.
Okay, and in that end unit, they would do things like no thresholds and an accessible tub.
They're all ADA compliant. Yeah.
That's great, terrific. So if that's a question, that's fine. This location, is it actually in what we outlined as the Lansing density zone?
It is. It's on
Was it-
Cayuga Vista Drive.
Okay, it's exciting. I think, yeah, absolutely. It's about time to see something like that here. The fund fee, I guess I'm a little nervous about a precedent. And I don't know how to think about that. Did you have anything in the policy about, like, if it's fewer than X number of units, it's not pertaining?
I recall discussion about having a minimum number of units, and there is nothing in the policy about a minimum number of units.
Okay,
Okay,
And reminded that the only housing projects that the IDA has currently in their policy that they would look at would be in the Lansing Town Center incentive zone and in the city of Ithaca's density district.
okay.
all right.
Jeff,
Yeah, just a quick question on the affordable housing fee policy then. So Heather, I know we don't have a definition of medium rents or, excessive rents that we would see in the city of Ithaca. I was just surprised at such a small project like this that's probably aimed at, lower income or medium rents, however you want to define it, that we would even have a fee associated with this. So, if we don't have anything in a policy, should we consider something going forward on that? Because I could see even an $80,000 fee would probably prohibit something like this going forward.
The affordable housing piece is complicated because when you can say my rents are affordable, but affordable to whom? Traditional affordable housing serves 80% to median income or below. It's based on HUD income levels per family size, and families are income qualified and certified on an annual basis that they fall under that. And the rents are set at 30% of their income. So to say, I'm renting this one bedroom for $600, it's affordable, doesn't really meet the affordable housing test that I have sort of laid out. It's complicated. Like you can't just say my rents are low, it's affordable housing.
Yeah.
okay. Anything else, Jeff? You good?
Nope.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would support completely waiving the affordable housing policy, but it does seem like, as this is contemplated, it'd be nearly 40% of the abatement value, which seems excessive, right? So I wonder if we might consider, perhaps making a minor modification to our policy to say something like, not to exceed, 20% of the abatement value or something like that, which, would decrease the payment in this case by like 50%, but still get something into the funds or some other creative solution to help us, continue to work with small. I think small projects are harder to do in a lot of cases. We don't see a lot of them because, all the other overhead costs are significant to come before us. Be nice if we could offer some help to the smaller project.
John, I think that's a really interesting idea to take back to the housing committee. And that might be our way through this, because I'm uncomfortable waiving it altogether as well. But I'd sure like to see this housing get built. Yeah, Martha.
Yeah, in the past, we have offered, and I think we've actually done this with a couple of the projects where the payments are spread out over a few years. So if that would help, give them, pay a fifth of it and spread it over 5 years, if that would make it easier.
Well, what happens is the return on investment for the developer. Like if he has to pay $80,000 and legal fees and a project IDA fees, the abatement over 7 years, time value of money is not worth it. So project may not happen, or it doesn't make sense financially for him to be here. It is a numbers game.
I think what Martha was saying, though, if you take that in combination with what John was saying, that we do a de minimis fee and it's allowed to be spread over so that it works from a cash flow standpoint. But it does sound like the IDA is amenable to listening to proposals along those lines, if that would help this developer.
Okay.
Is that what you did, Heather?
Yep.
Okay. Any other business we want to consider in the 3 remaining minutes we have? Or do we want to put it off to our July meeting and pick it all up then?
I wonder if we want to just maybe spend 5 minutes on the policies.
You don't have it, but you have, I show 3:27. You said you had a hard stop?
I'm willing to go maybe 5 minutes.
Let's go 5 minutes on policy, man.
Policies have been reviewed by the governance committee, recommended for approval here. The CTAP policy is really just, the city said, we don't need to have our two-step process anymore. IDA, you handle that. So that's just cleaning up the existing document. The only substantive change to the CTAP policy is that there isn't the two-step process where it has to go through the city first, which the city agreed to, and then reducing that annual return on investment for the financial need from 20% down to the 10%.
Okay, any comment on that with the 2 minutes yeah, Martha.
Yeah, are you looking to get this approved, Heather? Because I'd move
Yeah.
it. Okay.
All right, do I have a second? Laura seconds, okay.
Can
Any
I-
further
can I ask
comment?
a
on this?
quick question?
John, go ahead, yes.
Is the 5 years that shows up in our benefit memo, is that in this policy that it's 5 years that we're looking at?
Yes, each of the
Can we change-
first of the 5 years.
Can we change that to 10? I guess I'd like to move that we change that to 10. We're giving 10-year abatements. Like, why aren't we looking at the 10 years of the return? You're getting a 10-year pro forma. I think it makes a lot of sense as the rents increase over time. It's typical that your project's super lean right at the beginning, but then you might see more substantial returns later. So I'm
Is that
going to move
friendly
that.
to the mover and seconder? Yes, okay. So let's vote on that, or no, that amendment is included in the motion? All right.
Yes, so that's packet page 29, the top of that paragraph. Is it right? So debt service of less than 10%? No, yeah.
In each of the
Each of the
first 10
first 10
years.
years.
Yes, okay. With that change, any further comments, questions? Are we ready to vote? Let's vote on the policy. Martha,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So that's unanimous. All right.
Okay, the
You wanna
next
try to-
policy is internal controls and financial accountability policy. It is a best practice to have a policy like this. It is not required under law. During the Tompkins County Development Corporation audit, it sort of came up in questions whether we had such a thing at the IDA. So I went ahead and developed one, worked with Rick Snyder in the county finance department. It really just outlines what our current practice is. And we'll, put that into writing so that we have a concrete policy.
Okay, could I get a motion on that? Laura moves, Jeff seconds. Okay, questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the roll. Martha,
Yes, thanks for keeping us honest, Heather.
John,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes, and thank you to Heather.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, very good.
And then the final policy here, this is our UTEP, our Uniform Tax Exemption Policy, which is pretty much all of our policies or references other policies. There's 2 modifications here. A revision to our fee policy, which really puts in place our actual practice. There's been some deviations to the policy that have been approved for projects for a long time. So just outlining our, actual process for fees. And then that's the first piece that you find on page 34 and 35 of your packet. And then there's also on page 38 of the packet, transfer and assignment of incentives, some language just outlining what the practice going forward would be for the IDA. This was brought up at the governance committee. It is standard policy. It is in all the pilot leaseback documents that pilots are not transferable upon sale unless otherwise approved by the IDA. So it's just adding some language to make that clear.
Okay. Do we want to put it on the floor? No? Mike, you want to move?
I can move it unless nobody wants it on the floor. So,
Yeah, why don't we move in second and then we can talk about it?
Well, I have questions and this needs more discussion, I think.
Yeah, just proper order is you put it on the floor, then we talk about it, and we might send it back to committee. But I would need a second to do that. Laura seconds. Okay, thank you. You left me hanging there, you guys. All right, Martha, go ahead.
I guess I would ask that it be postponed till the next IDA meeting. It's a motion or something, but just, I'd rather have.
Maybe
You want to move the table?
What?
Maybe you could just flesh out why you'd like to do that. So
Well, I'm confused about a few things. I'm not sure about, not sure there aren't some inconsistencies.
Okay, okay,
Not a minute and a half's worth of stuff.
yes. So it doesn't
So
sound
are
like,
you moving the table, Martha?
yeah. John?
What, John? Moving to remove it from the table, whatever.
Yeah, John, go ahead.
I was just asking if Martha was moving to table this to our next meeting.
Okay,
All right,
yes.
Mike?
I was just going to say, if Martha, I mean, if you want to write down your questions and submit them to the governance committee, then we'll, I mean, obviously answer the questions.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to go down, whatever. I just, in this hurried up thing, I don't think it's.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound like it's pro forma, as I said. So it does sound like we're going to take more time on this. So why don't we agree to put it aside?
But
the
in
consensus
return,
we
I'd
got?
be happy to approve the jobs report.
I think we want to talk about that too. So why don't we wait until July to do other important business? And I would then need a motion to adjourn. Laura moves, Martha seconds. Show of hands on adjournment. Thank you, everybody. All right. Thanks
Thank
for all
you.
your help.